All right, let's talk about legacy modernization. It's always been this huge, expensive thing, right? But lately, something's changing. It's becoming, well, economically unstable. The old ways of pricing and delivering these projects are starting to crumble under the weight of bigger systems and tighter deals. So let's dig into why this is happening and, more importantly, how AI is about to completely change the rules of the game.
So here's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? We all know these projects are absolutely essential. They're not optional. But why do they so often just spiral out of control? Blowing past budgets, missing deadlines. It feels like every single one of these big deals is just a huge roll of the dice for everyone involved, both the client and the partner.
And here is where things get really interesting. For years, decades, we've all pointed the finger at one culprit: complexity. We've all been on those calls, right? Oh, the system's just too complex. But it turns out that's not the real villain. The real killer, the thing that drives all the cost and all the risk, is something else entirely. It's uncertainty.
Okay, so let's put a name to the face. The real villain in our story is uncertainty. And think about it. It's not a bug you can fix. It's not a feature you can document. It's just this fundamental state of not really knowing what you're getting into. And that not knowing, well, it kicks off this domino effect of hidden costs that can absolutely torpedo a project before it even gets going.
So what is uncertainty in this context? This definition just nails it. You've got the client over here thinking they're buying a standard engineering project, a predictable job with a clear scope and a firm price tag. But the reality for the team on the ground? It's a full-blown expedition into the unknown. They're basically archaeologists digging through decades of undocumented code. And that massive gap between predictable engineering and open-ended discovery, that's where all the money disappears. That's where the risk is hiding.
And this is how that uncertainty creates a total train wreck. It's a chain reaction. First, you've got the discovery phase, which is just this giant, impossible-to-estimate black box of work. That leads to step 2. You become completely dependent on one or two people. The subject matter experts, the SMEs, right? The only ones who know how the system really works. Then, inevitably, you discover something huge late in the game, and bam, expensive rework. To top it all off, what do delivery partners do? They bake in this massive uncertainty tax into the price just to protect themselves. It's a lose-lose cycle.
Okay, so how on earth do we break out of this nightmare cycle? Well, this is where AI steps onto the stage. But, and this is super important, not in the way most people think. We're not talking about just making developers' code a little bit faster. The real game changer here is way more fundamental. It's about shifting from throwing human labor at the problem to building a reusable digital intelligence about the problem.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at these two worlds. On one side, you have the old way, labor-driven. Got a bigger problem? Just hire more people. The catch? All that knowledge is tribal. It lives in people's heads, and when they leave, it's gone. Poof. On the other side, you have the new way, intelligence leveraged. Here, you're not just adding people, you're building a persistent brain about the system, an asset that makes everyone smarter and doesn't retire or quit.
So you might be thinking, okay, that sounds great, but how does AI actually do that? Well, it's not magic. It's just methodical. It can read and analyze millions of lines of undocumented code at a speed no human team could ever match. It pulls out the actual business logic, not the stuff someone wrote down in a document 10 years ago. And here's the kicker. It finds all those nasty surprises and hidden connections early on, before they blow up your project. The bottom line is, you capture all that deep system knowledge just once, and then you can reuse it over and over again. No more late-stage surprises.
And when you can do that, suddenly you're playing a whole new ballgame. The economics of modernization completely flip on their head. Being able to see and measure risk from day one changes absolutely everything. How you price deals, how you manage them, and even the kind of relationship you have with your client.
And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the economic shift. You know that old saying about unknown unknowns? The stuff that bites you because you didn't even know it was a risk? That's what sinks these projects. What AI does is it acts like a giant floodlight. It takes all those scary, hidden, unknown unknowns and drags them out into the open, turning them into known knowns, things you can actually see, measure, and plan for. Just look at the difference this makes for something like a fixed-price deal. Before AI, what's your pricing based on? Let's be honest, it's guesswork and big fat buffers. And risk management? It's basically cross your fingers and hope for the best. Now, look at the AI-enabled world. Pricing is based on evidence. Risk management is proactive. And maybe most importantly, the whole client relationship changes.
It stops being this adversarial fight over change orders and becomes a real partnership based on data everyone can see. Okay, now check this out, because it's a little counterintuitive. You'd think the first thing that happens is prices drop for the client, right? Nope. The first economic win actually goes to the delivery partner in the form of better margins. Why? Because AI just demolishes all that internal rework and discovery cost. Delivery becomes predictable, so your margins are protected. The first companies to adopt this aren't winning by being cheaper. They're winning by being smarter and more reliable.
So if you're a leader, a CFO, a commercial manager, anyone whose job is on the line for the financial outcome of these huge projects, listen up. This isn't just another shiny new tech tool for the engineers. For you, this is a brand new lever for economic control.
So what does that economic control actually look like? Well, it means you finally get a clear line of sight into what's really driving the costs. It means you can quantify your risk with data instead of just telling your team to add a 30% buffer and pray. It leads to smarter pricing, holding vendors accountable with actual evidence, and, thankfully, way fewer of those awful last-minute financial surprises that nobody wants to explain to the board.
Look, if there's one single idea to take away from all this, it's this quote right here. For so long, we've obsessed over execution. How can we make our developers faster? How can we optimize our processes? But the truth is, that's not where the real money was being lost. The margins on these deals were getting eaten alive by uncertainty, way back in the planning and discovery phase.
So, that brings us to the final question, and it's one you really need to ask yourself. When you look at your own big projects, are you pricing them based on actual quantifiable risk, or are you still in the old world, just padding the estimates to cover the unknown and hoping it all works out? Because make no mistake, the rules of this game are changing, and they're changing really, really fast.